nasty nursing homes and hospitals. But let's talk a little bit about the families and what they're being put through.
Well, we talk to at Courage to Resist. We talk to families every day, and I was just starting to tell you a couple of these horror stories, very common, where you have an individual stationed in Iraq or Afghanistan, and their mother dies, their daughter dies, and they assume that they'll be able to get emergency leave to go home, attend the funeral. And sometimes they've served the military for 12 years, expecting the military to be there for them in their time of need, and simply to be told that that's not going to happen. They don't have the manpower to let them return home. And this is part of some of the reasons why people begin to question the military and what's it all about if they're not taking care of them in this situation. We have a particular individual that's currently imprisoned at Fort Lewis in Washington State. He was during his training, his family became homeless. He told his unit that he had to go help his family find a new home, a place to stay. He was ordered, he couldn't do that. He had to continue training. He went to AWOL because he felt he had no other choice. His 3-year-old son, his 4-year-old daughter, and their mother were living on the streets. And he has been sentenced to 8 months in prison for going to help his family. These are just some of the examples of these sort of pretty heart-wrenching stories we deal with.
And the stop loss has caused just some terrible situations, I'm sure.
Well, one of the good things about stop loss is that it's officially coming to an end this month.
Would you explain it to our viewers, though?
Stop loss is when people are in the military, they're on active duty, they're going to get out on Thursday and they're expecting to go home. At the very last second, the military steps in and says, "You're not going home after all. You're going with us to Iraq for another year, or you're going to Afghanistan." And there's been a big uproar over this, and there's been a lot of very angry people in the military. I was a victim of stop loss myself during the first Gulf War, and that in part led me to refuse to go, because I had said I already did my 4 years. I realized this isn't the place for me. It's time for me to go home, and the military is going to involuntarily extend my contract to fight in Iraq, and that's part of how I decided that I simply wasn't going to do that. And people are doing that same thing today. The military, because of the economy going down the toilet, is getting more recruits, so they're able to phase out stop loss, but they're continuing to keep in a different program called the Individual Ready Reserve, which can involuntarily pull people back into the military years after they've been discharged and are attempting to move on with their life. And this is what we deal with at Courage to Resist a lot, are those people, and how do they refuse to return?
Wow, yeah, it's just amazing. And Michael, you've been very active locally in the resistance to the recruiting process and recruiting kids in the high schools. Talk a little bit about some of the tactics in about a minute.
Well, I've been working very closely with the anti-JROTC campaign, which has been trying to get JROTC out of the schools. JROTC, people don't realize, is a military recruiting program. The Armed Services Chief of Staff addressed the Congress a few years ago and said outright that it was a recruiting program, that it has 30 to 40% success rate in recruiting kids out of high school into the military. That's its main purpose, and so that's what I've been opposing in San Francisco. The battle has gone back and forth. Right now, it looks like they've won for the time being, but the battle will continue on, and we'll see what happens long term.
And let's hope that battle continues, but that the wars don't continue much longer. We're almost out of time, but maybe I'll give each of you about 30 seconds to wrap up and make any announcements you might have.
Well, we're an Oakland-based organization. We need volunteers. We need help. And if people are interested in volunteering, coming to our office to help, or attending events upcoming in October in Oakland, just check out couragetoresist.org.
Okay, well, for somebody who doesn't have a computer, what's the address?
Give us a call, 510-488-3559.
510-488-3559.
Exactly.
Right. And
yeah, actually, Veterans for Peace and some other organizations, Asian Americans for Peace and Justice, we're having a fundraiser for the GI Coffee House under the hood outside Fort Hood, Texas. The fundraiser will be at the Red Vic Peace Cafe October 24th, which is a Saturday night, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Everybody is invited to come.
And thank you both so very much for joining me on Freedom is a Constant Struggle. I want to thank Stephen Leader for engineering, and thank you viewers for tuning in. And please tune in next week when we'll have Richard Brown of the San Francisco 8, and by phone Francisco Torres. And thank you again for tuning in to SF Commons. I'm Kilu Nyasha. Good evening.